Today on Voices for Change, what does it mean to be an ally for social justice? An expert breaks it down.
Being an ally is a verb, it's not a noun. And so it's something that we all continually have to do.
Supporting the cause as the sports world protests inequities, front office executives stand with them.
We as a society have to pick up our fellow citizens and get our community to a better place.
And putting words into action. A professor shares what it takes to teach students to be anti-racist and become advocates.
Transformation as a process occurs within the individual people or groups while engaging in the social justice work.
Welcome to this week's episode of Voices for Change. I'm Greg Lee. We started this show more than 2.5 months ago to continue the conversations about racial inequity and calls for social justice. Those conversations have spanned a wide range of topics: education, police reform, sports, just to name a few. Today, our focus is on answering the questions: where do we go from here? How can we be better allies and even better advocates for change and equality? Activist, organizer, and communications expert Leslie Mack created a virtual boot camp called Allies in Action. The workshop focuses on helping people become anti-racist and put together a plan to create change. She explained what being an advocate really means.
Leslie, thanks for joining us. I just want to start with your Allies in Action boot camp. 4 parts. Just tell us how important those conversations and that training is.
Yeah, the great thing about the training is that it's really built to give participants the tools they need to create an actionable action plan at the end of the course. So it's not just about the learning. We really want to focus on the doing, and we really help people build a plan that they can take action on as soon as they leave the camp, and talk about the things they need to research, the tools that they need, how do they build support for themselves in the work that they want to do, and how do they make sure that they're in good, accountable solidarity with other folks in their community doing similar work. And it's really critical.
That action is what we've heard from a lot of people, that they don't just want allies, they want advocates. Dr. Bettina Love talks about co-conspirators. Can you stress the need of taking that action and what that looks like?
Absolutely. You know, being an ally is a verb, it's not a noun. And so it's something that we all continually have to do. And this is not just about race, it's not just about gender. We have so many parts of our society that are marginalized in different ways. And how we show up for those folks, how we support the work that they're already doing. I really always dislike this idea of giving voice to the voiceless, because nobody's voiceless, right? It's about who we're listening to, who we're ensuring other people hear. And that's the job that allies and advocates have, is making sure that we're working in concert with those that we are working to support and be in alignment with, and that all of our actions that we do take are in alignment with the work that's already happening. I say all the time that we can have different strategies about how we get where we're going, but we all need to make sure we're pulling in the same direction so that we're all advancing the cause together.
One of the things that we've certainly heard is about wanting support, but not wanting the message overshadowed or co-opted, so to speak. You have written, plan to mess up and just do better. Can you talk about that a little bit, especially when it comes to racial justice and social equity?
Absolutely. What I try to tell people to focus on is accountability, not perfection. We're human beings. We're going to make mistakes. And part of taking action is being willing to make those mistakes and being prepared to take actionable response to when you mess up, to not get in your feelings, to not be defensive, and to understand what is being said to you about what happened and what went wrong. How do you make repair? How do you ensure you don't do this again? And what are the lessons you glean from the mistakes that you've made so that you can share them with others so they don't fall into the same traps that you did?
Leslie, we like to say this is not just a movement, because I think that takes away from the fact that this is a fight people of color, and especially the Black community, have been fighting for a very long time. If you were in front of your class and you were giving a message about the importance of listening and reflecting, then moving forward from right now, what would you tell them?
The biggest thing that I tell them is that you really need to get clear on how you personally are connected to, affect, tolerate, and perpetuate these issues that you're looking to address. If you don't get clear on that, your actions are never going to be as powerful as you want them to be. So you need to look at the places where you hold power, where people near you and close to you have power, and leverage those things for good. Leverage those things for the places that you want to make an impact.
Are you hopeful that as you look at the climate of the country, that we can move forward, that we can start to make progress?
I believe in Black people. I believe in Black people to liberate ourselves. And I believe that those that are in solidarity with us, that they will step up when they need to and show up in the places that we need them to. What I've seen and what has given me hope is so many people joining our movement, people waking up to the fact that this is a movement that they need to be a part of, and seeing how many areas of our society that this movement is starting to touch. That's what's been giving me hope. The days ahead are not easy, and they're not going to be, but that doesn't mean that our fight is not any less righteous or worth fighting.
Our thanks to Leslie. There's no question tensions between law enforcement and the community remain high, particularly with the Black community. After a stint in the NFL and the Canadian Football League, Terrence Campbell joined the San Jose Police Department. Officer Campbell tells us his goal every day is to calm those tensions and work towards a better relationship with the people he protects and serves.
Last time we talked, it was because we had that viral moment of you with protesters trying to de-escalate the situation. Tell us how that empathy on that day has kind of continued with you in this career so far.
Man, it's been amazing. You know, from from that event to now, the things and the people that I've come across and the appreciation that I have received from doing that video, from the interaction with the young lady. It's been a lot of positive feedback. It's been a lot of good energy. With me being able to be in this position, it just been open up a lot of doors where people ask me questions. I'm able to give them those answers, especially about injustice. So, you know, it's been pretty amazing.
Being a cop is difficult and dangerous work, but we know that what drives you is being a role model. Can you talk about that a little bit?
And the main thing, that is the main thing that drives me, is being a role model. You know, I saw the bigger picture that's bigger than just me. You know, before all of this even happened, when I was looking at the job and going into it, I had already thought about, you know, things like this happening in the past, and, you know, how big it was for someone of myself to go into this profession, and how many kids it can help and how many adults it can help. You know, how many just people in general it helps. And that's what pushes me, just being a positive role model, being an influence, being able to help, you know, that even if it's just one person, I can talk to 100 people. If I influence one person to be like, man, you know, that's you know, being an officer is not bad. I could do it. You know, I could be a police officer. I didn't think I could be. I've talked to a lot of people who was like, man, I didn't even think I could be a police officer until I saw you do it, because of where I come from, because I thought the culture was just all cops and not really, you know, any Black cops, you know. So I just been able to influence and motivate a lot of people that way.
Those tensions are incredibly high between police and the community because of Jacob Blake, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd. You're a Black man who did not have great experience with police growing up. How important is it as a police officer now to be an ally to the community and show that interaction?
You are touching on everything that I'm about. You know, and I love it. That's what I'm about. You know, I'm about being an ally for the community. I always tell you, I'm the bridge. I'm the middleman. I'm the middleman between the men. You know, I always say that, you know, and I tell my friends that, you know, and I think it's huge.
Officer Campbell, any enduring message that you'd want people to hear from you, a Black man and a police officer?
Just keep fighting the fight. You know, I love the energy. I am all for it being equality. I'm all for it. I am not against it. I believe in 110% that your color, your facial hair, your hair, what you wear should not be a judge of character. I totally agree. But let's just do everything with thought. Let's think it out. Let's do everything with good decisions. You know, and even as officers, you know, I'm saying this for both sides. For a citizen, for officer, you know, just think it out. Like, hey man, maybe this dude can just walk home. You know, maybe this dude, maybe we can give him a courtesy service. Hey, maybe you could not yell and cuss or spit and just be more relaxed when you come in contact with the officer. You know, and try to hear them out. Try to hear what's going on. Try to hear what's happening. You know, like I believe that will I think that's the message that I would want to leave people with. Let's just think.
In every aspect of life, we have to be asking the right questions to get our society to a more just place.
Coming up, the president of baseball operations for the San Francisco Giants explains why it is crucial for the organization to support players when they protest, and his reaction to the powerful movement around the sports world. Stay with us.
You're an ally, truly prove it. Prove your merit. Put yourself on the line.
Being an ally means that you are listening, that you are acting on what the affected individuals are telling you that they need, and you are supporting in them in any way that you can.
It is no longer acceptable just to not be racist. We have to be anti-racist.
Don't put a statement out there if you're not willing to do the hard work.
I believe African Americans have always done their part in just speaking up, saying what's wrong, demanding change. But I've always felt that we need to call on white America to do their part as well.
What affects one affects all. An injustice against me is an injustice against you.
Powerful words. That was just a small compilation of some of our guests over the course of these last several episodes of Voices for Change, sharing their thoughts on what being an ally really looks like. Last week, powerful statements and actions of solidarity from the sports world in nearly every professional league. Players refusing to play to bring attention to issues of systemic racism and police brutality. Many of those players telling us they're grateful for the support of their organizations. Leaders like San Francisco Giants president of baseball operations, Farhan Zaidi.
I just want to start, if you could talk about the immense support you have shown for your players and your organization for choosing not to play, and why this message is really bigger than baseball.
Yeah, I mean, I think what is really encouraging and for people that support the cause that we're talking about exciting is this was really a player-driven movement. Obviously, it started with the NBA, the Milwaukee Bucks team, and as news spread about them deciding not to play their game, spread to other NBA teams and into baseball. And obviously the demographics of our sport are different, but the conversations that it sparked among players, between players among different teams was really encouraging, and ultimately is about raising awareness. And I think that was accomplished with, the fact that we're here having this conversation now. So really proud of our players and really proud of Major League Baseball. And obviously there's still a lot of work to do.
Farhan, you've also been really supportive of your players that choose to kneel during the national anthem because of issues of systemic racism and social injustice. Why is that so important for you?
Well, I think above all, as an organization, we want to support our players' individual freedom of expression. So our players that kneeled did so for very good reason. I think they did a great job articulating it. And obviously, we had players that stood for the national anthem, and I think they did an incredible job also explaining their reasons for doing that. So, at this time in our country, it's probably more important for us to focus on how we can bring people together rather than divide people and create stratification in our society. So I think listening to both sides on that issue was really important, and I think there were a lot of important things said about that as well.
Farhan, on this show, we're talking about allies, right? And you in this position obviously have a lot of influence. And so what is your message for the community, the sports world, and beyond about being a good ally and supporting fights for racial equity?
Yeah, I mean, one of the most moving moments, I think, of the last few days was the press conference that Dominic Smith of the Mets did a couple of nights ago. I don't know what human being would not be moved by his words and the emotion that he showed. And all I could think in that moment is, we did that to him. We as a society did that to him and so many other young Black American men, and really the entire Black community. So I think we have to hold ourselves accountable to that. And to your point, how can we be allies? How can we help move this cause forward so we don't create that kind of emotion, distress, and just that level of being demoralized that we saw in Dominic Smith? We as a society have to pick up our fellow citizens and get our community to a better place. And I know there's a lot of talk about sticking to sports and that sports is an escape. But this is so pervasive in our society right now that to put your head in the sand, I think is irresponsible. So we're obviously continuing to play, and I do think we're at a point now where we've got to figure out how we can be allies and move this cause forward while we're out there playing.
You yourself, in your own life, have broken a number of barriers and fought through to be in the position that you are. What have you learned, and what is the message that you might share about that in striving for equality?
You know, I've been really fortunate. I've been treated really well by the baseball community. I had an incredible sponsor when I first broke into the game in Billy Bean, who's really done a great job promoting diversity in his hiring with the Oakland A's. So I, in my position, have been very fortunate, but I can also speak as a Muslim who was in this country after 9/11. And I think for any of us who aren't Black, it's impossible to fully empathize with what's happening in the country right now or what they've had to deal with over our country's history. But I think about being a Muslim in this country after 9/11, the thing that really stands out to me was going through airport security and, being profiled time and again, being pulled aside for additional screening. And it wasn't so much being pulled aside for additional screening that was disheartening. It was that when I looked around me, I felt that so many people felt safer seeing me get pulled out of the line. And, again, thinking back to Dominic Smith's words and the words of so many Black people and, in this case, particularly Black athletes, just the feeling that people don't care and aren't really empathizing and, are even at the point of indifference of what they're going through. That is at least the small way in which I can relate my personal experience and understand the importance of making Black people feel heard and that their cause matters and how they feel, getting to that sense of equality really matters.
Farhan, in closing, what would be your message to the community about stressing that message of unity that you talked about and why maybe we can take steps towards progress together?
Yeah, I think it's just a call on us to all be better, to love and respect our fellow citizens, to understand what they're going through. Again, that word empathy is so key for us, and to appreciate that the issues that we're dealing with are so pervasive that to say, I just want an escape, I don't want to deal with this right now, I don't think that's an answer. I think we have to understand that in every aspect of life, we have to be asking the right questions to get our society to a more just place.
People have to grow. People have to be willing to grow. We have to critically self-reflect about our conditions.
Coming up, raising and educating students to be anti-racist. A Bay Area professor of ethnic studies provides his insight into how to encourage and empower young people. We'll have much more after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Many parents and children are starting this year in distance learning as California's education system looks to integrate classes addressing racism and equity. We're hearing about the importance of having these conversations with students. Dr. G. Reyes is a professor at Cal State East Bay, where he challenges young people to transform their realities when it comes to race, culture, and humanity.
The California legislature just passed a bill that would require students to take a semester of ethnic studies in order to graduate in California. Is that a good start in this process?
Thanks for asking. Yes, absolutely it is. The very nature of ethnic studies is such that it's trying to center upon these stories that have been historically marginalized. And these are the stories that have the potential to uplift communities that have been left to the sides, to die, to kill each other, to fend for themselves, to even be pathologized as what's wrong with those communities. And so when we have this legislation that says that every student must be able to be engaged in ethnic studies and learning these stories that have been silenced, then what happens is that we equip our young people to be able to have a more empathetic, compassionate, critical understanding about not just the world, but why is the world the way that it is right now? How have things come to be? And what are the ways that I really need to rethink how I see other people?
Especially in school, how can we better prepare students and young people to be anti-racist?
Yeah, it's a great question. You know, I like to think of this word ally or allyship similar to the ways in which the word solidarity has been thrown out a lot more these days. And as such, it's started to lose its meaning. So, for example, the proliferation of Black Lives Matter signs, T-shirts, stickers, pins, and so on has made it easier for us to give an appearance of solidarity, an appearance of allyship. The increased amount of protests has made it easier to be seen at events, and, you know, take a selfie and say that you went there, but then go home to continue life as it was, so long as you have a Black Lives Matter sign on your window. And so I want to introduce this idea about transformative solidarity, where we recognize ourselves as inseparable from the context where the social justice work is most necessary. And so when I think about transformative solidarity, it involves a reciprocity in both its processes as well as its aspirations. So in other words, transformation as a process occurs within the individual people or groups while engaging in the social justice work. That means people have to grow. People have to be willing to grow. We have to critically self-reflect about our conditions, our privileges, intersecting oppressions, and even the ways in which we might even reproduce oppression in our world in the first place. And so transformative solidarity means that we as a people are constantly committed to and active in our own learning, and we have to be willing to challenge our worldviews and ways of being, ways of becoming. And of course, transformative solidarity also involves commitment and activeness in aspirations of achieving social justice outcomes within a context.
For parents at home, as they're going through this process and they're not in the school, how can they bridge that gap? How can they have those difficult conversations with their children and their students?
For educators, for school leaders, district leaders, parents, transformative solidarity can mean a lot of things, but especially during this time of COVID-19 and California wildfires and unhealthy breathing conditions and the continuous intersecting oppressions that happen, whether that's related to race, gender, socioeconomic class, religion, immigration status, we have to recognize that those create complex situations. And we have to realize that our own little bubbles are our bubbles. And so people are dealing with complexities in their own lives. So we need to take pause. We need to question our current state of the world by drawing attention to what's been problematic for a long time.
A reminder, if you'd like to rewatch any of the interviews from today's show or from any past Voices for Change content, download the all-new KTVU mobile app. You can find it in your app store. I want to end this show with a programming note. The NFL returns this week, and we are gearing up for a very busy political season. That being said, this is our last episode for the time being. That does not mean the work ends, and definitely doesn't mean these important conversations stop. I hope you continue having these conversations in your homes and with your friends. Expect to see Voices for Change again in the new year. Finally, a personal note of gratitude. Thank you to all of the guests who have taught us so much in the last 3 months, and a thank you to our viewers for staying on this journey with us. A heartfelt thank you to our producers, editors, and directors. This is a passion project for our small, hardworking team, and we are grateful it's become a platform to listen, learn, and reflect. We will carry that knowledge and empathy and continue to strive to do better. I hope you do too. Have a great day.
Moral force, which makes for social transformation. Man must evolve for all human conflict. The foundation of such a method is love.